In 1 Samuel 17, we find the famous scripture about David and Goliath. But what captures my attention is the Israelite army. These are men who are trained for battle, they're skillful in weaponry, they're strong and courageous men to be part of this army, and yet they face one man named Goliath. And Goliath comes out and every day, twice a day, intimidates the army for 40 days. By the time he's done all this, they're literally so trapped in fear that they're paralyzed. It says that all of a sudden, little David comes running onto the scene, and our little David is bold and courageous, and he comes out before Goliath, and Goliath tries to intimidate David too. But all of a sudden, David runs straight towards him. It says that he ran towards Goliath, not allowing him to be psyched out. You see, David knew who he was in God, and he knew that God was with him. And so he runs towards the battle. Well, then what I love is what happens next. You see, we all know that David takes the little slingshot and kills Goliath. But then it says next that the Israelite army then suddenly start chasing after all the other Philistines and actually plunder their tent. The very thing that the army were made to do in the first place, they suddenly become inspired to do after seeing the bravery of one little boy. David was the least skilled person on that whole battlefield. The king were there, the army were there, everyone who'd been trained for this very moment. He was the least skillful person there for that moment. But because of his faith in God, he runs straight into the battle. Well, you know what? We also have an enemy who tries to come and intimidate us. The enemy will try and stop us from stepping out before we can ever do anything, tries to hold us back with fear. But if we would be like David and run straight into the battle, not being intimidated, not being psyched out, not being full of fear, but knowing whose we are in God and run straight into that battle, then you never know. Maybe your bravery and my bravery could be the very thing to inspire the people around us to go into their potential too. So take heart from David, be brave, be strong and courageous, and knowing that you might not be the most skillful person for the job, but knowing he's with you and he's for you, and because of that, we can and will do anything.